Angeles. I am your host and producer, Alex Worley, filming inside Focus TV's West Hollywood studio. Welcome to Empowerista, a show dedicated to highlighting female trailblazers and empowering you to turn your barriers into breakthroughs.
Hey guys, I'm Amy Packrat.
And I'm Justin Walter.
And this is What's Good, the show that's dedicated to positive, uplifting news from all over the world.
We are live
from Los Angeles. Welcome to Good Morning LaLaLand. I'm Dr. Erin.
Hi, I'm Rob Mack.
And I'm Jez Moyer. This is Good Morning LaLaLand, America's first live streaming daily talk show, coming to you Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Now also available on Apple TV and Roku. It's going to be a Good Morning LaLaLand.
Hola, yo soy Gina Moreno y soy una reportera aquí en Los Ángeles. Para mí, mi pasión es para decir las historias de las personas que han luchado lo imposible. Todas las entrevistas aquí en Focus TV. Hi, I'm Gina Moreno, a reporter here in Los Angeles, and my passion is to tell people's stories, the stories of people who have accomplished the impossible. For all the interviews, make sure to watch Focus TV.
Live from Los Angeles, welcome to Good Morning LaLaLand. I'm Dr. Erin.
Hi, I'm Rob Mack.
And I'm Jez Moyer. This is Good Morning LaLaLand, America's first live streaming daily talk show, coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Now also available on Apple TV and Roku.
That's right, it's hashtag Friday Feels, dating, love, and relationship, one of the hot topics we like. So we're going to talk about why is sex on the decline in America. We're going to talk about with some experts actually about how to rev up your sex life.
I cannot wait to hear their
Right?
thoughts. Yeah,
I
yeah,
know.
Friday feels.
Friday feels. And the shimmy, Jess. Like the shimmy.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It's what Friday does to me. It's interesting being back here having the conversation today. I'm kind of liking, we decided to change it up a little bit and bring the conversation, the intimate conversation back here to the studio.
Right.
It is different, right?
Yeah.
I feel more relaxed.
So I have to give a big shout out, if anything, to Elena Nazaroff, who yesterday, I had the coolest experience, you guys. So Elena came over to my home and we spent 3 hours going through my closet. She's a stylist. and she went through all of it. She like reorganized stuff, like, okay, wear this with this, put these, you know, things on. So these are actually a bunch of stuff I had in my closet that I just haven't worn lately. I made this in Bali, made these in Bali, got this in India, and she's like, your brand needs to be like your outfit is an expression of your brand and what your mission is, right? So it was super fun to just kind of go through, because I mean, Rob gets us, like, I mean, clearly you've been styled. Hello.
I've had lots of help though.
But so like for me, when I look at your style, because I mean, I swear there's never been one day when I'm like, oh yeah, not so much. Like every single day. And so what I've noticed, take note, is that it's like, okay, he puts on the gray, he has the gray shoes to match. Then he puts on the gray beads. So it's like, and then he puts on the gray square. So it's like, it literally, but what it says is it's like, he's business, yet he's spiritual, yet he's chic. Like, it's clear, like your brand and your clothing is so on point.
You are the sweetest ever, Erin. I so appreciate that.
The night before
about this, right?
Well, it's so interesting. I laid out about 10 days in advance.
You know what? She said, I bet
Seriously?
Rob has it all laid out.
I have like 10 days laid out. And because what I've discovered is, because my schedule is just like, you know, in 15-minute increments, if I don't do that and I wake up, I'll suddenly be thrown into like confusion, like, oh no, does the gray go with the maroon or does it go better with the navy? And the next thing you know, my whole day is thrown off. So I do,
That's
but
how
I
I
kind of
feel
enjoy
every
it.
day.
Yeah, but you guys always look so incredibly beautiful. What do you mean?
But it's different in that, obviously I think it's a little bit more challenging for women. We have so many different looks and we have to wear a lot of different things. But I do think that it's interesting that, like, Elena went in, and I don't have to, I mean, yes, you can obviously buy and go shopping and spend a lot of money, but I do think that, we're in a time in history that, and my commitment is to somehow reuse designer clothes. Like, we all have there's so many closets full of incredible clothes. Imagine if we all shared our clothing and
So
just
been talking
rearranged,
about this, right? Yeah, it's kind of insane to like be possessed with the idea of possession, with like owning things, and instead of just accessing things and sharing things.
So come over and borrow some.
You are more than welcome.
They wouldn't fit me. But
You are more than welcome.
Oh, well, on the note of fashion, I got to go to the official launch of the Global Intuition line. It was at Fred Segal yesterday. It was incredible. The founder Zhao was there. It was a really cool, super sexy crowd. It's a minimal, bespoke luxury line that's going to launch officially in stores at Fred Segal on September 20th. It is so chic. It was a super cool crowd. So I had a good time doing that. It's kind of like social media meets everyday life, meets, you know, this creative, globally influenced, American-made brand. It's incredible.
Just, if I didn't have you in my life, I would know nothing about what's going on in LA.
I know,
it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how you're able to see it.
That's like her profession, right? I mean, you're an expert, really.
Oh, well, thank
She
you.
is, yes.
I'm going to add that to my resume, update my LinkedIn. No, but it was really special. Special thanks to Nicole Muse for inviting us. She's been a member of the Focus TV family, so we are very grateful to be included in your community.
Right, for sure.
I've seen you doing a lot of fashion stuff.
I
want to see it all.
You know what?
I'm
I'm coming out of retirement a little bit. If you didn't know, I spent most of my 20s in fashion, and I was based here in Los Angeles, but I worked all over the world as an international model, and I had a great time. I learned a lot about myself, cultures around the world, and fashion, and I've been able to kind of use that as an expertise to create a platform where I can really not only empower myself, but empower other women. You know, to really embrace that and to find their unique style, like you did with Elena yesterday.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to really have the brand and the focus around being, you know, I'm not 20, right? So I want to be able to be elegant, but be also in, you know, a Doctor of Divinity and ministry, and how do I portray that in my clothing? And so it's going to be fun. I'm like having fun with this thing.
Yeah, I love it. You always look so incredible, Erin. And you're also highlighting such a great point, which is that, you know, most people get an impression of us or set of perception by how we look and how we show up, right? So that's our clothes, and it's the style and whatnot, but it's also all the nonverbals and all that good stuff.
Sure.
So that's all part of the brand.
It is.
Self-expression.
That's right.
Master your brand. We're so grateful to have an incredible community here at Focus TV and Good Morning LaLaLand. We had an incredible show yesterday. Let's take a look at the rewind.
For me, I guess the realization is and was that love essentially is happiness. That they're the same thing. That when I share my happiness with somebody else, I call it love. When I just share my happiness with myself, I call it happiness. And that at the end of the day, they're both it's felt oneness.
Yeah, I'll feel like that strong, aggressive athlete in me coming out, but then there's the other times when you switch into the more vulnerable or the more, feminine aspects as well.
I want women to embrace their femininity more, but especially the women that maybe don't have that opportunity or that platform, right? They're focused, they're working, and they just don't have a place to be a woman, to dress up, wear a dress, wear the heels, maybe even be treated like a lady.
We fall into this pattern of here's what we're supposed to look like and here's what equals happiness without really internally checking in.
Don't wait for the time to be perfect. The time is now.
Yeah.
I love that.
Love our guests.
Right?
We have the most incredible guests.
We really do. So
We're
many
so blessed.
amazing people coming through.
What an opportunity to wake up, show up, and shine, and actually have the opportunity to engage and learn from them. We don't have to be perfect. The time is now, right?
That's right.
Great
So
lesson from yesterday.
Let's get on to #FridayFeels. And so I pulled an article from CNN, and it basically said that Americans are having less sex. This is no news. I've heard this for a while now.
Yeah.
And so, they say it kind of comes down, they say a lot of things. Basically, there's a few major effects that are affecting it. One is the parenting effect, where people are just so tired after a long day. And, we're just a huge to-do list, and it's like to, relax and have sex is like, forget, I'd rather sleep, right? And then the second is, they call it the Tinder effect, and it's where we're so busy, we're on our phones so much, and it's really impacting our sex life.
I can't wait to hear what the experts say, but I can imagine stress has got to be at
sure.
the root of this, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
because in that stress, it manifests itself as disease, whether it's chronic disease, so diabetes, cancer, and all these other things, and those things sort of exacerbate the problem, right? So it's difficult to turn that around unless you turn around the stress part.
Well, it's interesting though when you mention stress, and it's not necessarily that your partner's stressed out, but I've found that if I'm super stressed out, I'm not going to feel like my most sexy, vibey self, right? If I'm so stressed and all my focus is on that, I'm buried in my screen trying to get everything done, right? And then you wake up and you're not waking up next to the person you're in bed with. You're waking up on your Instagram and your inbox and being like, oh my God, I'm already so far behind and look at where I should be in life. Someone give me a filter, please.
No question. So, I kind of thought about this, like, what do I really think about why sex is on the decline?
Yeah.
And I was thinking spiritual principles, like what is it, right? So first of all, just to define sexuality, and everyone has their own definition of it, but one spiritual definition of it is sexuality is the divine urge to create in its expression, meaning sexuality is spirit expressing itself in form and reforming. Sexuality really is the reality that all of life recreates itself. And
nice, Erin.
the thing is actually interesting is I actually think it's an ethics issue.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, because what happens from a subconscious perspective is we're such powerful spiritual beings that if we misuse our energy, we take our power away from ourselves. Hence addiction. Hence, it's basically an entrapment that happens. It's a natural kind of ethics to the spiritual, to the universe. And so if we're not using our energy for good, meaning we are using it in kind of a lot of chaotic ways, then we begin to take our power away to not want to recreate as much.
Let me ask you this. Are you also referencing putting energy into the wrong relationships or the wrong physical connections?
For sure. I mean, look, I'm all about self-expression and all types of love making, if you will, with an authentic, whether that be man or woman, whatever. I don't care about that, but I do think that when we misuse it and we don't have it for true intimacy and true connection, I believe that there, at some level, we take away our powers.
So let me ask you this: is it the same thing? Because the way I hear that, and I'm sure I'm very partial in the way I heard it. The way I hear it is that as we advance, like in an external way, like in the world, like technology and medicine and all these things, that we've got all these incredible advances, and as we're increasingly inundated with information and opinions and all these things, that is outpacing the evolution that's happening on the inside, right? So in terms of consciousness, right? So it's like we've got more access to information, we've got better technology, we're living longer lives and whatnot, but on the inside, we're not keeping up. We haven't done any of the inner work.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say it like that. Also, you could say it like a tree, that if a tree that's towards the roots, towards source, is very lively, it's got the vitality. As you get too far away from source, the branches kind of die off. because it's a natural way for us to stay in source. And so if we're not staying in that, in our foundation of connection, harmony, love, all that, then we'll start to just kind of, we can start to die off.
We're not rooted and grounded
right?
people.
That's right.
That's
But
what it
that's
is.
my opinion, you know? I
Yeah.
think that there's everyone will have their own opinion. Yep.
It's such a good point, though. I mean, I know that when I feel most deeply connected to what I would call my inner being or source or God, when I'm most deeply connected to that, everything else seems to flow more effortlessly and easily and enjoyably, right? So I think that's the take-home point for me, is just to continue to focus on that.
Gotta dive deep.
Is that it? The Dr. Divinity?
Dive deep into source. That's
No,
right.
well, right now is the time to do it because there's a full moon tonight.
Ooh, that's right.
So what does this mean, Erin? What does the full moon mean?
Well, we've talked about it, right?
I know, but
So full moon is where everything is magnetized, like magnified. And so all of our emotions get magnified. All of our good and our bad everything gets magnified. So right now is a great time to know the truth, totally celebrate everything that is wonderful, and declare the truth where things are not working in our life. Release the emotions, release the angst, the anger, let it go, and know that the universe is hearing even more right now.
And to also hide, because it could be the purge.
And then eat cake. Thank you very much to one of our special guests today, Ms. Jackie Blaze, for bringing us this special delivery from Magnolia Bakery. Isn't it gorgeous?
No.
Whoa,
Wow,
Erin,
so
I
amazing.
know.
So
I know.
beautiful.
So we're excited to share these lovely cupcakes with our
It's
guests.
Friday.
It is Friday. Jackie Blaze, she is the host of Love Unravels, and Dr. Barbara and Michael Grossman. So stay tuned. We'll be back with more on Good Morning La La Land. Live from Los Angeles, welcome back to Good Morning La La Land. We are so excited to be honoring #Friday Feels today. We have Dr. Michael and Barbara Grossman in the house. Thank you so much for being here today.
Look, you guys match. You're such a beautiful, handsome couple.
Well, I mean, they've created the marriage map, Erin.
Wow, we want to hear about that.
Absolutely. Co-authored The Road to Transforming Your Marriage from Ordeal to an Adventure, right?
I've been in an ordeal for sure before. That's no fun at all.
I think most people's relationship, or at least most people's lives at some point, feels like an ordeal, right? Their relationship life.
Right.
So can you talk to us a little bit about your journey?
Well, we want everyone to know that there's inevitable disconnections between a man and a woman in a relationship. We want them to understand what they are so they don't misunderstand it and they don't decide that the relationship needs to end because they're not on the same page. And that if they have the skills, they can work through the disconnections and get back in line. That men don't develop the same way women do. We have different chapters at different times. And so we're going to get out of phase and we won't, understand each other at every point. But we can learn to understand each other if we have skills. That's what we teach. We teach couple skills.
That's beautiful. Important. So important. You guys both have training in religion. You have your master's in religion, which is so fascinating because I think it completely translate to relationships for sure. All of life is a relationship. And then you deal with aging. So how did you guys come together to go, let's deal with relationships?
Well, we've been married 46 years, but it's as if we've had 3 different marriages.
Oh, really?
In our first marriage, we were 20, and we had 10 years of doing whatever I thought was right. And that was a great marriage. And I loved
Did it your way.
And then she was back in graduate school, and they taught her to think for herself, have her own opinions, her own way of doing things, and that was really, really difficult. We almost divorced. That was 4 years of intense problems, and we did a lot of counseling, which didn't help very much, and we did a lot of classes and courses and personal growth development, which was really profound, and then we came out of that, and we have a different kind of relationship now, and we teach that. We teach people how to move out of that phase where you're just arguing and getting upset into the phase where you really can support each other to heal each other's wounds from childhood, and that's the great purpose of relationship.
It's funny because I was just even looking at the origin of sex. And I was like, where is that origin from? And you think about X is in there, and you think about X means something has grown out of there. It's like there is something to be birthed, whether it be a child, whether it be the new you, whether it be whatever it is. Like, what do you guys, how do you teach that? How do you teach for someone to break through the ordeal?
So, life will teach you that. What you need is the skills to be able to move while all that's going on. So, if you do ballroom dancing, which Barbara and I love doing, it looks like, oh, it's effortless. Look how they're just floating through the dance floor. It's the exact opposite of effortless. It's the most effortful thing you do. Every movement has to be coordinated with each other. You have to be communicating with each other. You have to kind of go over things. And that's what you have to do in a relationship. And teach that. How do you communicate with each other in such a way where you can see that you're so different than me? My God, how do you see the world that way? That is crazy. But you come to appreciate how different people see the world, and your spouse is very different than you, and your lover is very different than you. And if you appreciate that, that's what allows you to grow, because it stretches you. So you don't have to do anything. Life does the stretching.
I agree. If people just look at relationships like this is a classroom, who am I going to tango dance or ballroom dance with that's going to grow me and that's going to help me and be committed to healing my maybe childhood wounds, but also is going to stretch me to have me understand something completely different than me. It's so beautiful, you guys, so beautiful.
To be the light that shows you your...
So what skills would you say are most critical for people to understand or learn?
Well, you need to learn how to have create positive cycles, how to start, create positive energy. You need to know how to change your complaints into requests. You need to learn how to listen and listen deeply.
And when you listen, if you're planning in your mind what you want to say back, to argue back, you're not really listening. If you're not listening without interrupting, without planning your own response, you're not really listening. Then you're just sort of trying to win the argument. That's not listening.
And we need to learn how to stop anger on a dime and redirect and understand what's underneath that and what we really want.
So how do you do that? Especially, you know, if there's miscommunications in the relationship and it's a fight and you're passionate and you're arguing, how do you remove anger from the situation?
Well, you might need to take a time out, and then we have a structured talking. We teach our couples how to listen to each other in a very, predictable, a structured way that has rules. And then we have our couples think about the conversations before they come back to the same topic.
And so the rules are no interrupting. One person talks for 5 minutes and you don't say anything for those 5 minutes. You have no facial expression, just really, really listen. And then the other person does their 5 minutes. And then you don't talk about it.
And that's on the outside and on the inside.
That's right. But it takes time to learn that, but that's one of the skills. We practice it and people get it. Transforms a relationship.
I mean, and you've transformed over 1,000 relations. What have you learned through that journey about yourselves in the process?
Well, when you read the book, you'll see all the stories that I have and my wife has in there. And so half the book is my stories of transforming from being an egotistical man who knows everything and I'm always right, into someone who's a little more humble. And you see that transformation. And men have to learn that transformation. And women have another transformation they have to learn. They have to learn when they have an emotion not to act on it like it's the end of the world. They have to
come on!
So they have to learn that because a man's brain and a woman's brain are structured in a different way. A man's brain is one part. It has a focus, and the man's brain and the right and left are not so connected. And so men use different parts of the brain one at a time. It's not all connected. A woman's brain is all connected all the time. And it's constantly moving. It's a different physiological structure, hormonal structure. And so women have to learn their things, men have to learn other things, and eventually you grow each other.
Right. So I have a question for you, because you teach the skill set, but can you teach somebody the desire, meaning that if people are having a hard time or whatever, there has to be a desire. There has to be some commitment. Can you teach that, or is that something that just people have or don't have?
Well, that's a great question.
Well, I don't know that we can teach the desire, but people have an investment in each other. And when we actually teach the way life unfolds over time, we have a developmental model that shows how women and men develop over a lifetime and what's possible. And we can tap into people's desire for a fully evolved personality and a fully evolved life. And my belief is if you've loved someone and you've had children with someone, there is a connection there. It could be buried, but if you understand that where you're stuck is only because you're in a tough place, and that there's possibilities beyond this place, and you begin to learn skills that opens up the trapped place you feel, it can open up and redirect love and recreate love. I can't guarantee it.
Yeah, because I mean, today's world, the reality is that the younger generations are not getting married as much, or they're getting married much older. What do you feel about that? What about marriage being on the decline?
Well, I think in some ways the millennial generation has lost trust in relationship. They've seen too many divorces. And I feel that way too. It's tragic for this society. It's tragic for our children. If you lose trust in relationships, you lose trust in life, why would you want to play that game? Which is why I'm deeply purposed in teaching people how to recreate their relationships and make it magnificent, lifelong. That's what our society needs. Our society also needs how to talk to each other. We have forgotten how. It's no different from talking to a woman. If we can't have differences and hold differences, how do we expect to speak as a society and talk about our social problems?
You know, it's interesting as a single woman dating. I've encountered many conversations with men and posing the question, well, what is it that you want? What do you see in your future? And a lot of them are saying that they don't want to get married. Oh, I'd like, you know, a commitment and a partnership and a long-term relationship, but I'm not going to marry you. And for me, that's very important to me. And I thought, oh, maybe I can change their mind. If I just love them enough and give, you know, communicate enough, I will change their mind in that.
I wouldn't invest in that stock, no.
So Barbara, in her counseling, talks a lot with women just in your situation, and she has a formula that she recommends.
Well, there are men who want a lifetime love, and you want to find men. And if a man tells you he's not interested in marriage, I would believe him, and I would move on.
Right. And,
Okay.
And Barbara always said, you want to date at least 3 people.
At all times, simultaneously.
And
Just in.
And if you find one who is committed to having a long-term relationship and or marriage, and that's what you want, then you may commit to that person. But when they say they're not committed, then that's fine. I'm dating other people. You never commit unless you have someone who's interested in that. Otherwise, you're wasting time, and she has all the time. Women.
Yeah.
Three men at a time.
Well,
that's right.
That's easy. Come on.
You know what I find is that women form relationships, and that's not what dating is. Dating is interviewing. Dating is pre-qualifying a man and to see if he's available and eligible for a relationship with you. It means finding if you're mentally attuned, if you emotionally have affinity, and if you have chemistry.
And so how long can you date? Decide that relationship. So I'm a serial relationship kind of girl. And so now being in this dating world is very new and interesting, especially as an adult. So even the idea of entertaining, 3 different potential partners at a time seems, one, exciting, but a little overwhelming. But how long do I let that go on?
If you have 3 people, you drop one out and add another one when someone doesn't seem so interesting. And then when you find that this guy is the right guy, he has my interests, he wants to have a family, he wants to have kids, he wants to live in LA, he's the right religion, he's this and he's that, then you can commit.
Wow.
You're not married yet, but you're committed, you have a year, but you don't want to be with a guy for 6 years and hope someday he's going to change. That is like bad news.
I have a question, and I love this. I love this conversation. How great a role does introspection play? Because the one experience that I've seen, I've experienced myself, and also with friends and clients, is that lots of folks aren't very clear about what they genuinely want for themselves, or who they genuinely are at the deepest core. And so they go out into the world and they go out into the dating situation, and they're looking for people that meet a checklist of criteria that they never thought their way through, but that was them, or they inherited from previous generations, or from a teacher, or from their parents, or from whoever. So what role does introspection play, in sort of getting you to a place where you're even ready to begin vetting for, qualified candidates?
Well, you do have to know yourself, and if you're having serious conversations with people, that's a chance to sort yourself out. You learn about yourself when you're talking, and so you wanna find connection on lots of levels. I think my philosophy about dating comes from meeting lots of women in their late 30s who don't have that special partner and who want families, and they're up against a biological clock that's merciless. And so this comes from being, really pragmatic. And if you have those conversations instead of just bonding and being sexual, you will learn about yourself.
But just to play devil's advocate for a minute, I mean, look, I'm all where people are really drawn to the concept of marriage. I'm all for it, and I think it's beautiful to be committed and to have that space to grow in ways that you never knew because of the commitment. But I also feel like in today's world, marriage may be a little unrealistic for a lot of people. And I just feel as if so many people, and I was one of those people, that think marriage is going to solve and complete them. And I just feel like for a lot of people, I feel like for them to even just be happy with themselves is maybe a feat in of itself in this lifetime.
For sure.
Like, it's not necessarily for everyone. How do you feel about that? If you feel there's certain people that you work with,
if you're not interested in a lifetime relationship, that's fine. It's your choice. But a lot of people want that and don't admit that to themselves and allow themselves to be pulled into short-term relationships.
But how do you know that you want to be married when you haven't even met somebody you would want to marry? That seems bizarre to me.
It depends on how old you are. Okay, so if you're in your 20s. You're just exploring yourself, and it's natural that you want to be connected. We call this the caretaking stage of life. So you come out of teenage stage where you're independent, you want to be on your own, do everything your way, and then you want to be connected. And that's a natural phenomenon, whether you're married or not married. You feel that desire to be connected. You get it until you're a little bit older. You get into your 30s, maybe your early 40s. You don't want so much connection. You want your career, you want your hobbies, you want the things you're passionate about. And yes, you're in love, but give me a little space. That's natural. We call it the warrior stage. And then we have the stage that you get into when you're older, in your 50s, 60s, where you once again feel connected. You want to be connected back to your grandchildren, or you feel more intensely desiring. That's a natural, that's going to happen whether you're married or not married. Those are stages. Don't argue about it, don't fight about it. That's just a phenomenon of life, and it's okay. Right. So whether you get married or not is a separate thing.
Well, unfortunately, we're running out of time, and I could, like, honestly, like, this is such an important conversation.
Yeah.
And I guess for me, the only, like, kind of, like, thing that doesn't, like, completely suit me is, how do people know they want to be married when they haven't met the person they'd want to be married to? Like, that for me that's the bizarre thing about our culture and marriage. That's the only thing that I go, I think it's natural to want to spend your life with someone forever, but how do you know you want to be married?
So maybe you don't know, and so if you don't know, you're not going to be interested, so this conversation isn't for you. But in truth, wisdom and maturity comes from taking responsibility, and most of us enjoy taking responsibility and creating love. And so it's part of part of growing up, and I believe in growing up. I think there's creativity and fulfillment in that.
I know certainly that that's something I want in my life. And I might not know that person, but I know I want that relationship and I want that partnership very deeply. So thank you very much for being here, for giving us a roadmap. Stay tuned, we'll be back with more on Good Morning LaLaLand. Live from Los Angeles, welcome back to Good Morning LaLa, and I'm so excited to have fellow host Jackie Place with me in the house. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So wonderful to meet you. I love your dress. It's so pretty with the gold.
Thank you so much. You guys all look amazing. I love the show.
Well, thank you for being here. And you know, I know that you've been on a personal journey and unraveling love.
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
Let's.
What was the catalyst for this project?
Well, I was an entertainment reporter. I was dating in Los Angeles, as you know. That's I just heard your previous interview. Yeah. And it's tough. And I was dating amazing men, but I wasn't feeling fulfilled. And I knew that there was something fundamental that was missing, and I thought it was me that was the problem. So I kept getting, the longer I dated and the more it wasn't working out, I started feeling intimidated, and I would question, am I doing the right thing?
Am I the common denominator in this problem?
Right. Yeah. And the answer is yes, we are the common denominator. And the reason for this is because there wasn't a skill set that was taught to us in schools, which there should be, because, you know, it's like anything in life. You have to know how to do your interviews, how to do someone's hair. There's a technique. You know, the earlier guest said, you know, the example of ballroom dancing. There's a skill set to everything. And there's an expression, if you want to be wealthy, then learn about wealth. And the same goes about love. So I sought out the biggest love experts in the world.
Yeah. So,
and those are?
Sorry, go ahead. You can go, but Dr. John DeMartini. I mean, this
Seen him everywhere.
He's amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yes. So I've been so fortunate. And what we found, and this is the most amazing part about the project, was that coincidentally, we came up with 2 men and 2 women, and together they each covered, and this wasn't me being an amazing journalist, it was the universal God, whatever you want to call it, they each specialize in an aspect of love. And together we covered everything and came up with a very simple and easy to follow skill set. So it's a 4-part series, and that's it. You get all the tools in the 4-part series, so we cover everything with starting with Robert Greene on the art of seduction, which covers, to really know your character. That way you can be playful in a relationship, and dating 3 people is the way to go if you're stuck. Because then, and Dr. Pat Allen calls it Judy dating. We discuss communication
She's
with
hilarious.
her. She is so
I
funny.
spoke with her before in Orange County, and she is a riot. She's
a riot
about speaking because she bags on herself the whole time, which is the most genius thing
It
ever,
is.
right?
It is. And I had seen her before, way before I even considered doing these interviews, and it was hard for me to understand some of the things she taught. So I really got in there and kind of broke it down. It was she was probably the most tough interview that I've actually had, but she really kind of, gets it out of you.
Jackie, I'm wondering, what did you learn about yourself in that interview?
Oh my gosh, so much. First of all, that I was clueless and that I needed this skill set more than anybody. But that probably took away the most. The biggest lesson and challenge that I had was learning my self-worth, and I really gained that out of this. And that's something that is priceless and that nobody can ever take away from you. And no matter what you've been through, whether it's a divorce or a breakup, or you're really struggling because the absence of love is being in fear, which is a horrible place to be. No one can take away the self-worth that you find. And with this skill set, you won't ever get stuck again. You'll continue to be able to work it out. And it's just, I really, believe in couples being able to work it out. You mentioned earlier that, sex is on the decline, and it shouldn't be. And I'm all about love, so I'm not about sex, but sex is such an important part of any relationship. And the reason that it's on the decline is because people are going out there just to have sex, and they're not committing. Whether it's, living together or a marriage, people are not committing. And so when men actually don't learn how to make love to a woman because they're out there having one-night stands or whatever it may be, then they actually can't get it up. And Dr. Pat Allen is hilarious in discussing this.
It's so funny. So John DeMartini actually referred to in my book because he has a story, and I believe it's a very brilliant story for relationships, in that I believe the universe can't give us more if we're not having gratitude and seeing the perfection exactly where we are. So he sits on this plane, he's on the way to like Vegas or something with this girl. Did he tell that story?
I love this story. This story is amazing.
You tell the story.
Okay, so she had a list of all these things that she wanted, and so she's checking off her list. But he was basically pointing out to her that she had all the qualities that she wanted in multiple men.
Right.
Because there's the universal law of the one and the many. When you want the one, you always get the many. And then when you have the many, you always want the one.
Right. She wasn't necessarily dating multiple men. She had one man that was like her boss, that was like, he was very charismatic. He brought her girlfriends out for a good time. She had her hairdresser who was very funny, and like she loved that relationship.
And she had
like her ex. She's had a lot of intimacy still with him, and that's a whole other topic.
Yes.
But the point is that I truly believe that until we look at our lives and see the perfection of it, and see how much love we already have, that we can't have, love and life.
No, you know what? Love is about, and you can't have love if you don't love everybody, because then you're not in love with that one person. It's manipulation. And that's what I love about Dr. Bonnie, who I interview, because it's not about rules. It's about tools. And because if we listen to our friends and they tell us, look, don't call him, then there's a disconnection. And the pursuer distance to dance is very important. And so, if we listen to our friends, then we get to marriage, then what do? You get stuck, and then you end in divorce because you haven't really learnt to work it out for yourself. The important thing is to work it out for yourself, because then you're connected. And part of that is loving everybody.
I just love that,
Yeah.
There's an expression sometimes I share, which is what we do anywhere is what we do everywhere, right?
Yes.
And of course that starts with us.
It does.
Right, first and foremost. So how do you teach people, and of course I know they're going to need to, go online and get the actual video series, but how do they start to turn that around? How do they start to begin loving themselves and loving everybody so that they can sort of prepave for the perfect relationship.
Okay, so look, knowledge is power, and definitely watch the interviews. They opened up my heart. So if your heart isn't open, first of all, you're going to be stuck. You're not going to know where to start. But self-love is where it always starts. And it could just be, you know, starting your day with a yoga class and, you know, really taking care of yourself and, you know, doing self-care. I think that's where it starts. And kindness. It's such an important, such a simple thing. And it's horrible because you see so many angry people out there, and I always know, you know, they're going either through a breakup or they're having some sort of struggle or personal problems. And so it's always about kind of coming back to yourself and you know, taking care of that is educating yourself on such an important topic that, you know, we need the skill set.
I feel like I've read just about every book. I will read the Road to the Marriage Map. I've watched the series. I watched your series. I feel like I've done the homework, but I can't pivot. There's something is stuck. How did you unstuck yourself?
Okay, so after I did these interviews, I really questioned, you know, do these experts know what they're talking about? I didn't want to just put out a product that doesn't have integrity because it's my name to it and my brand. So I went ahead and tried and tested it. And sometimes your pick is going to be off, but you're going to learn. You're going to have the skill set and you're going to work it out. I did, and I know you're going to.
I will.
Yes.
I will.
Absolutely.
How important is it to enjoy the process? This is
so
one
important.
thing I just feel is like really important, and I feel like it quickly gets lost because, you know, for me, I don't know how much more time I have left on Earth. I don't think that any of us do. We don't know. We might have 1 hour. I might have 5 minutes. I might have 5 years. I might have 50 years.
Yes.
And I want to make the absolute greatest contribution to my life and the people in my life and the people in the world as I possibly can.
Yes.
And for me, that means enjoying it as deeply, as fully as possible and sharing that with everyone else, right? How do you get people to focus there? Because I think so many of us are focused like, well, if I do this right now and I do it right for the next 5 years, I'll be married eventually. And I think that's problematic.
It is problematic because what you're doing is you're putting so much pressure on yourself and the other person, and you're really missing out on all the fun. A relationship needs to and should be fun. And the way to actually do that is to really know your character. And I'm excited in Robert Greene's interview that we actually explore different character types, and he basically refers to it as the victim, which initially in the interview, and you'll see if you haven't watched it yet, and all our audience will see that I'm like, well, I don't like that word, but it's a great way of describing it because, you know, picking the right person, someone who's, you know, lighthearted and fun, should be like the #1 thing. It is an interview process in the beginning because the first phase of any relationship is always perfect. So it's always going to be fun. But then after that, you see the next 3 months from month 3 to 6 is imperfect. So you get to see the horrible side. And if you don't make it fun, us women like to sit there and analyze and overthink stuff. And guys really pick up on that anxiety, and it just takes away the fun of it. And it really needs to have lots of fun in there because otherwise it turns into being a toxic relationship. And every relationship has 3 marriages in it. And I find if you just go out there for the purpose of getting married, you're going to get married. And then what happens? You don't know what to do in the relationship after you get married. You could have kids, and then after the kids are done, that's the 2nd marriage. And then it could end there. And then when the kids leave home, it's the 3rd marriage. And a divorce can happen there. See, I'm all about love. I'm about, you know, keeping couples together and making it the goal to keep pushing Cupid's arrow through, because relationships are about opening up wounds and healing those wounds, because then we get to a deeper love. We do much better in life. It can do. That's why we need, and that's why we have the skill set to wear velvet gloves, because sometimes us women, because we have a big corpus callosum, can mush up all this messages that we get from our partner, and suddenly we're like, you went out and cheated, and the guy's like, not done that. You know, and it's really about communicating and talking. And because we, in this 4-part series, we get different tools on seduction, and you can reseduce somebody, so you always go back to the beginning. So there's 0 reason why a marriage should ever. And then we talk about how to speak in your partner's value system. And that always...
Wait, how do you keep the spark again? I missed
It's going back to the beginning. It's called a reseduction. So
we all want a reseduction.
We all want a reseduction. Okay, you have to keep going back to the beginning and doing what you did in the beginning, or recreating the romance, basically falling in love with the same person, because it's easy to want to move on, and a lot of people give up, which is why divorce rates are so high. We want to give up when our hearts are pounding to stay, and what we need to do is to keep pushing Cupid's arrow through, have the skill set, go back and rewatch the videos. I watch my own videos and I keep getting new information out of it. So you can absolutely fall in love with the same person, because it sometimes feels easier to fall in love with someone new because there's a dopamine high,
right. So,
and it's exciting.
Some of my girlfriends, you know, they drive me a little crazy, not gonna lie, because
Right.
they go, I want to get married, I want a relationship, and then the minute there's anything off, they're like, I'm out. He's this, he's that, and I'm like, I thought you wanted a relationship. It's not gonna be like,
No,
it's a whole thing.
It's not a fantasy,
Like, you know, like,
right? And that's what the dopamine high does. You know, you meet someone new and you're like, oh, this is exciting. I can leave my husband or my boyfriend because this guy travels more. This guy's a lawyer. This guy can give me this amazing world. And the dopamine high can be so exciting that if you leave the relationship, those issues are still there, and you're not getting to a deeper love. So it's not just about getting married, it's about going through the process correctly and being with the right person.
Just love that, and I love the point that you sort of highlight there, because you know, one of the pieces of research that was most surprising, enlightening, and inspiring to me was really around this idea of positive illusion, that the happiest relationships consist of two individuals that intentionally and consciously look for the best in each other, and they actually see their partner as 5 times better than their partner's friends see that same person, right?
Right.
So, and it's something that you can't begin to practice after you're already, I mean, you can if you're already in the relationship, but you've got to practice it, you know, before you're in that perfect relationship, ideally.
Absolutely.
Right?
Ideally, you're already happy within yourself, and then you're attracting the person for the right reason. You're not looking for somebody to complete you, because you are a complete person and two people meet each other. Now, you can certainly, like, meet a person. Sometimes it's easier if you're going through a situation, it's easier to, you know, have the support. You two people can get together and grow together, basically. But, you know, it's always a good idea to be happy, because another person is not responsible for our happiness. Otherwise, what will happen is once you get into that relationship, you're going to be like the porcupines. You're going to be expecting him to fulfill you and make you happy. And while a relationship should be fun and fulfilling, it's like the porcupines. If you get too close because you want that person to be exactly how you want them, you do this, and then it's like, and then when the fight erupts,
every time.
You're right.
How do we?
You want to run for the hills, especially guys. You know, guys are commitment phobic. You know, the whole idea of marriage scares them. You know, they can't commit to a movie.
But I disagree.
I
I think
that.
in some ways, I realized years back that by trying to catch a man, it was actually a fear of commitment. It was my way of pushing it away.
Very good. See, that's very profound. Absolutely. And it's not and sometimes when you want something so badly, you can push it away as well, because it seems like you know, it can be desperate, when in actual fact, you know, it is okay to want to get married. But it's also about recognizing that men and women are different. And while we women can know that we want to have kids and get married and we want that, you know, traditional lifestyle, you know, you can't meet a man and go, you know, us women, we plan the wedding immediately. And men are like, you know, they're just thinking about sex initially, you know, and it's about, you know, kind of keeping that balance and really having the skill set to know how to go through the process correctly and to do it all for the right reasons.
But these are like kind of very stigmatic gender roles, and so dramatically. I know a lot of men that desperately want to meet the love of their life and get married, and I know a lot of women that don't want to get married, and vice versa. It's all over the board. So I guess the question really is, what is it that has people, like, what is it that made you want to get married, or so intrigued with finding the one?
Yes, okay. So, you know, I recognize that the opposite of love is fear. And why would anyone want to live in fear? Also, men and women, or even if it's same gender relationships, balance each other. See, you're smart, I'm smart, right? There's a masculine and feminine energy in you, just like there is in me. So then there's 4 people together, and it's a much better way to live. You prosper more, you know, you have a healthier life. People, it's proven statistically that people have a healthier, happier life if they're actually coupled up.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
We've heard differently. I don't know.
About science, it's one of the things that exhausts me most about science, is that you can find what you look for.
Statistics.
If you look for it, you'll find it.
Right?
Whatever
That's
you want
true.
to
That's
look for.
true. Well, personally speaking, because
love
I've
and
tried and
connection,
tested
for
it,
sure.
I spent 10 years dating in Los Angeles as I was working here, and I had a great career. I had an amazing dating life with some of the most incredible men who I'm still friends with today, but I wasn't feeling fulfilled. And so I guess it goes back to what your values are. And not everyone wants to have kids, and not everyone wants to get married. But it's about, you know, really kind of knowing what you want and finding that self-fulfillment.
And I'm 1,000% for love and connection.
Yes.
The marriage thing, if it's a celebration
I get
of what
it.
is,
Yeah.
but not if it's to fulfill somebody.
Right.
It doesn't work out
The
that well.
only time that I feel like that's a problem is if it's been a past hurt that's actually caused you to believe that, in which case it's, you know, it's sad that people would feel that way, because marriage can be beautiful. The only time I feel that it becomes a problem is the whole money part of it. You know, if that's a whole other show.
Next Friday.
Yeah. We're not going there today.
Got to bring you back again.
Right.
Dive into that.
So, long story short, you know, if it's a trust issue of why it's happened, then it's probably because your heart's closed down a little bit. Open up, stay open to the possibility, because you may want to get married. You may not know right now.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Just love
Deprogramming and de-traumatizing versus deprogramming just the why somebody thinks they want to get married. And there's a fine line between those two, for sure.
Absolutely, yes.
Absolutely. Love your work.
Thank you.
Tell people where they can find your series.
On loveunraveled.com. So unraveled like unraveling a cube. So loveunraveled.com, or just Google Jan Blaze. Yeah.
I like it. She's
So
blazing
appreciate you.
She
is.
Stay tuned, you guys. We'll be right back.
Thanks so much for having me, you guys.
Oh, yeah, so fun.
So you.
We have been unraveling love today on Friday Feels on Good Morning La La Land. I so appreciate you guys coming to the show, our spectacular guest today. Question of the day, which I don't know if we've exactly clarified at the beginning. I don't know if I mentioned it.
How do we bring more spunk to the bedroom, or spark, or blaze, or whatever, right? What do you recommend for people?
I think women should come from their feminine side more, and men should be feel comfortable being masculine. We need to accentuate our differences.
So women can ask nicely for what they want. And if the men do anything at all in that direction, tell them how great they are for doing it. Men need that. Men look tough, but they need that constant accolades because they're very, very sensitive.
They should absolutely communicate what they want, I agree. And bring some fun into it, some lingerie, you know, have a fantasy Friday, plan it, and, you know, really enjoy each other.
Fantasy Fridays.
That's good, Jack. I thought you use that as a hashtag.
We know I'm at a meth bench. Hey, maybe I need to put
Right.
It is Friday Feels.
Yeah. And we are Good Morning La La Land, America's first live daily talk show, coming to you Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also listen to all these interviews available as a podcast on iTunes.
That's right. Please like and share, you guys. Have a wonderful Friday. We're waking up the world together.